So Trase is an independent supply chain research initiative, right? And what that means is that we have mapped the supply chains of deforestation risk commodities from the places where they're grown, things like soy or beef, through to the companies that handle the export and ultimately to consumers, often on the other side of the world. And this is really revolutionary because we make this information available. So we have a web portal where anyone can go and they can see this data for themselves. They can download it or they can visualize the flows of beef from Brazil, from specific regions, all the way through to the countries that consume it. We want to bridge that gap. We want to make information available so that people know and they can make more informed choices as consumers or as governments or as companies managing these supply chains. Brazil is home to more than 200 million cattle. And every year they produce about 10 million tons of carcass. So that's meat on the bone, of which 20% is exported. Brazil is the world's largest cattle exporter. And it makes an enormous contribution to the Brazilian economy. Right? This is really important. It's just people herding cattle is 7% of Brazil's GDP. Despite all those positive economic benefits, the sector does have a darker side. There are still social impacts of cattle ranching which are negative. There are cases of slave labor, and there's land grabbing, even the displacement of traditional communities as cattle ranching expands in the frontier regions in the Amazon and the Sahara. This expansion also has a really large environmental impact. So 1/5 of all deforestation for commodities in the tropics is linked to Brazilian cattle ranching, just this one sector in this one country. These forests, these lands that are cleared, they are home to a wealth of biodiversity. They generate rainfall, they provide a lot of forestry products, and ultimately they store an enormous amount of carbon. But actually, if you add up the deforestation linked to cattle ranching, and also the greenhouse gas emissions that cows actually emit themselves when they digest grass, cattle ranching alone is half of all the greenhouse gas emissions for the entire Brazilian economy. Two-thirds of deforested land in the Amazon and in the Sahara ultimately becomes cattle pasture. But not all of this, in truth, is really caused by cattle ranching per se. So farmers who clear land because they want to raise more cattle. Actually, a portion of it is linked to insecure land tenure, so land speculation, because clearing land and then sowing grasses on it is one of the cheapest ways of gaining land. All that said, however, between 2015 and 2017, so over 3 years, about 14,000 square kilometers of deforestation was linked to cattle ranching expansion in Brazil. That's about 1.4 million football pitches. Despite this ongoing link between cattle ranching and deforestation and pasture expansion and deforestation, that link really can be broken. There's enormous potential to improve rural livelihoods by investing in agriculture and improving cattle ranching on lands that are already cleared. Brazil has an enormous area of pasture, which is quite inefficiently used. And studies show that we can easily treble the amount of cattle production on the lands that they already have, thereby increasing production, increasing rural revenues, but not expanding into forests, so breaking the link with deforestation.